Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and a depression survivor. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about different strategies and coping mechanisms that you can use to live optimally and heal from anxiety and depression. Today I want to talk about another really important coping strategy, and that's engaging in community service. Now, why is this? Because one of the fundamental qualities of depression and other psychiatric disorders is that people tend to become too self-absorbed. Why is this? I can speak from personal experience because when I was depressed, severely depressed, it was like having an emotional toothache. Remember, anytime you had an abscess, the throbbing of the tooth is so intense, it's so painful, all you can do is focus on that. So when you're suffering from the emotional toothache, that's anxiety or depression, it completely takes you over. All you can think about is your pain and what to do about it, and you do focus overly on yourself. A practical way of changing this situation is through serving others. Because when you do so, you shift the focus away from you onto the well-being of somebody else. Now, when I was going through my depression, I read a really powerful memoir about recovery from depression by Tracy Thompson. And this is what she said about service, which was so helpful to her in her recovery. She said, "Be of service. Only in this way will you find your way out of the prison of self. Help others." So I like what she said, the prison of self. And that's why Psychology Today wrote an article shortly thereafter talking about a phenomenon called helper's high, in which they found that when people are engaging in service, it actually releases certain chemicals in the brain, certain mood-enhancing chemicals that make the person feel better and actually produce a positive physiological change. Now, an intriguing example of this principle occurred in the life of Mary Todd Lincoln, who was Abraham Lincoln's wife. And like Lincoln, she suffered from lifelong depression because of the loss of a parent at a young age. They both suffered from depression. But during the Civil War, things really got worse for her because she lost her favorite son who died, and then her husband was so busy focusing on the war, she became depressed and eventually became really anxious and was virtually paralyzed. So how did she deal with this? Well, a friend said, "Hey, why don't you go volunteer as a nurse in the Army and go to the battlefield and help people?" This might sound crazy, but that's exactly what she did. And while at home, the drop of a book would send her into a panic attack. While she was on the battlefield, she was so absorbed in helping others, she was a natural at it, that the shrieks of the wounded soldiers didn't even bother her. She was able to block that out and just focus on being of service. And in fact, in a way, it cured her depression and anxiety for the time she was in battle. Now, when it comes to your own situation, think of ways that you can be of service. That's why I tell people to do volunteer work. A really nice example of this is one of my current clients has been volunteering at the Humane Society, taking care of cats and dogs because she loves animals so much. And during that time, those days that she goes to the Humane Society, she basically has a relief of symptoms. Now, there's one caveat here, and that's in serving others or being of help. You want to have a balance between giving to others and giving to yourself. It does say in the Bible, love your neighbor as yourself, right? There's a reason for that, because if we get out of balance and focus too much on other people, we become quote-unquote codependent, and our own self-care suffers. So service to others is always predicated on good self-care. I'd like to conclude with another one of my favorite quotations. By the way, you probably noticed that I love to quote people. I wrote a book called I Am With You Always about my favorite quotations of spiritual healing. And so I'm going to pepper these talks of ours with quotations. And here's one by one of my favorite writers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "It is one of the most beautiful compensations of this life that no man can sincerely try to help another without also helping himself." This is why in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, they say, we give it away in order to keep it. This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something from it. If you want to subscribe to this channel, you can do so. When the credits come, you'll see a subscribe button, which you can click, or you can go to my website, healingfromdepression.com. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery.